a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome back to the Tobago Updates morning show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. We're heading straight on in to our first segment this morning. And joining us online, we have Caroline Birchwood James, a former president of the Tobago Hotel and Tourism Agent Association. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning. It's a
Excellent.
pleasure to be here this morning.
Yes. So this morning we're speaking Caribbean Airlines' impact on Tobago's tourism. And I want to get started by asking you very clearly. We saw the situation, the challenges, the significant challenges, I should say, faced quite recently in terms of where a number of pilots apparently fell ill all on the same day or around the same time, and not being able to come out. They have indicated it was never, any kind of strike action or anything of the sort. We saw the kind of impact that this would have had on Caribbean Airlines. Based on your experience, would you say that you've seen this kind of impact with Caribbean Airlines over the years, or has this really been, as they say, the straw that broke the camel's back?
Well, I am laughing a little bit because while you were talking, I'm remembering my experience 42 years ago as a young student having final exam and being caught in this same kind of situation. At that time, it was the air traffic controllers. All planes were grounded, and I had to find myself 6 months pregnant in Trinidad to do final exams. So the more things change, is the more they remain the same. I don't know if this has broken the camel's back because the air traffic controllers had a strike. And it was the same thing that happened between Trinidad and Tobago. There was no movement. And now we have the pilots. Who is next? The mechanics, we don't know. The factor here is that Tobago is left vulnerable. Our citizens, those who are from Tobago, who live in Tobago, who choose to live in Tobago, our visitors who come to Tobago for one reason or the other, most of them for vacationing, our students, business people, and the economy of Tobago. So when these things happen, and so I'm saying it's not only pilots, the air traffic between Tobago and Trinidad, or from between Trinidad and Tobago, if you want to call it, it has to be of national concern, so that when you have things like these, it does not really affect us. But as we are seeing, we are not immune. I also want to say pilots striking, I wouldn't even say it's a major part of our problem here. You cannot get to Tobago from Trinidad. If you book from abroad and you are trying to book via Trinidad to come to Tobago, you can't get the booking. You can't. Sometimes there may be space, but your local counterparts, people living in Tobago, have to go down to the airport and see if they could get a booking for you. So the problem starts when you want to get to Tobago. So whether we have a strike, whether it's an ordinary day like today, any foreigner, anybody outside of Trinidad and Tobago trying to come to Tobago, it is difficult.
I just want to follow on from that very last point. Would you therefore say that that's the fundamental reason why this is receiving national attention, because of the impact on international arrivals? Because the average person traveling between Trinidad and Tobago would tell you this struggle is quite normal in terms of being able to move into at the domestic level. But would you say that because international flights were also affected based on what took place with the pilots, that's why this is now receiving some kind of national attention?
Well, I am not sure. I would say the mass amount of flights, yes, international flights, yes, but you have a situation in Tobago there and the amount of flights and the backup and the amount of people at both airports trying to come to Tobago and so on would garner some kind of a national concern. We are looking at the economy of Tobago. We are looking at a perennial problem or a daily problem that has now been magnified 100-fold. And we are also looking at I want to say, a political situation here, where you notice that every political party has had a statement, but nobody is saying anything to push the needle forward to improve the situation. Nobody is saying anything. And that is people like us who are in the tourism, people like us who have to travel. I want to get down next week and so on because I have business to that I postponed for how many months because I can't get a flight. So there's no real comfort to us. There's no real comfort to the economy of Tobago. We can't go to the bank and ask for any monies, any loans, and so on. What are we basing it on when we have problems like this every single day? What do we tell our bankers? How do we assure them that we can pay this loan because we are going to get X amount of people over a certain amount of time when we have this situation here? So that's the reality of it. So I'm not sure that it's because we are international. I'm not sure. It's just that the local situation has been blown up, but we have a problem.
Right. Miss Caroline Birchwood, Miss James, we have been speaking about the issue and the problem and the challenge that we've been facing with the air bridge for forever. I feel as if that's how we've been speaking about it for a very long time. We've identified the challenges, we've identified how it affects our economy, how it affects tourism, how it affects even domestic travel, how it affects our daily lives, because people from Tobago have to go to Trinidad to access services. People from Trinidad want to come to Tobago to enjoy the beautiful, the scenery in Tobago. We have spoken at length about the issues, but what we want to get to is what is the solution? How do we approach the solution? How do we take actionable steps to bring resolve to a situation that has been ongoing for years in and years out? That's what we want to get to. What do you suggest? What is your recommendation? Because as a hotelier, you are also, your industry is also impacted and affected by this shortfall. So what are your recommendations to the policymakers to get this conversation beyond the conversation and into action?
Okay, so I would suggest we have a multi-pronged approach. The first thing is that the management of Caribbean Airlines have to have a meeting with us, the Hotel Association, Chamber, and whoever it is, and listen to us. We used to have meetings. We used to have slight improvement through our advocacy. But now with this new GM that we have had here, it has been extremely difficult, or I would also say non-existent. So you need to listen to us. We have a flight that left is last night, early this morning, go to New York. The only reason why that flight came back is because the Prime Minister had to intervene. All our advocacy was not working. So you need to have that. We need to have increased flights on the air bridge, go back to pre-pandemic, including that midnight flight. Thirdly, the powers that be in Tobago have to look to see if it's viable to lease an aircraft. It was done already under Mr. Wilson's time. They had released 2 aircrafts. I'm not sure what the audit from those 2 aircraft looked like, but I could tell you this. During that time, there were no problems getting to and from Tobago. There was an ease in that situation. Mind you, it was that time when we had 80,000 foreigners and all of that. So it has to be a multi-pronged approach like that. Okay? Obviously, you have to watch at the funds and so on. But there has to be a new thinking. You have to look at Tobago in a different manner. You can't just say, well, that is Tobago, and you're going everywhere 5 times in St. Vincent. We applaud that, yes, but you are leaving the taxpayers, Tobagonians, who are taxpayers in this airline and shareholders in this airline, holding nothing. You see, and the situation is getting worse and worse. As you know, there's pressure times: Easter, Christmas, New Year's, July, August, weekends. In fact, almost every weekend seems to be a crisis on the air bridge. So it has to be a multi-pronged approach. But most of all, you have to recognize Tobago. There are problems here, and you have to have the will. That's Caribbean Airlines management, the board and the management have to realize that you have a problem here with Tobago and you have to sort it out. You have to make a priority. We are part of your shareholding. We are not begging.
Point taken there, Mrs. James. We thank you very much. So, of course, we have to go back to the things that worked in the past. You made a reference to Mr. Wilson, and of course, I remember that period in time. So we have to revisit the things that worked, and we have to implement things that we believe will move us forward. That's what you're saying, right? So we agree with you here, because what we want, what all of Tobago wants, what all of Trinidad and Tobago wants, what all of the travelers want, is resolution. That's what we want. We want to ensure that the air bridge and the sea bridge as well functions optimally so that we are able to access all that we need to access within the two islands, and also that our international guests can get here with the assurance that they are going to get back to their destination after.